Hi, and welcome to Block Play, the very first edition. This is Dawn with Quilted Creations, and today we're going to be working on a four patch that I have right here behind me, made simply out of scraps. And then I'm going to show you also a traditional way of doing it out of strips. So let's get started. Stop. So what you'll need to make the four patch is two dark 2.5-inch squares and two of your background 2.5-inch squares. These can be made from scraps. What you'll need for the second part is a dark strip and then a strip of your background, which I have here. You'll also need a pair of scissors, 2.5-inch ruler of your choice, pins, seam ripper, and a rotary cutter, and your cutting mat. That's all you'll need for this project. So since we're going to be working with our scrappy pieces first, I'm going to just move my strips over here out of the way. And what I do is I lay this out in the way that I want my four patch to look. And then I'm going to take my background to my dark, and then my dark to my background, and we're going to just bring them over to the sewing machine and sew them together. So what I'm going to do is continuously sew this together. Some people call this rote sewing or assembly line sewing or chain piecing, but you're just going to sew one right behind the other, just like that. Then I cut these apart, and then all you have to do is open these up, and you're going to want to, if you iron them, that's fine, but I'm just going to finger press these to the dark side, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put dark side to my light side and light side to my dark side, just like that. And then what is called, this is the magic of it, is when you get this done, sewn together, it's going to make a perfectly center, and it's also going to do what's called nesting your seams or locking your seams. And I don't know if you can see this right here, but how they come together, and that's going to make them lock or nest. So we're going to just sew this piece together. Give me just a second. Get it straightened up. Some people like to pin that, and that's okay. This is such a small piece, and it's just these two, so I'm just going to wing it and finger piece that. You can feel it with your finger right there if there's too much in there. And we're just going to sew that like that. And when you open it up, voila, perfectly centered. Okay, stop. So we have our perfect center. And if you turn over on the back, if you look right here, I'll try to get it in close for the camera, there are just a couple of stitches right here that we want to pull out. And like that. And once we get that pulled out, if you can see how this row of stitching came up and this row of stitching came across, that is what's going to prevent you from having a hole. There will not be a hole there. So don't be worried about pulling those stitches out. And then we have our lights going opposite directions. So we want our darks to also go the opposite direction. So I'm just going to pull this apart like this a little bit, press it with my finger, just give it a good smush, iron those down with my fingers. And what this will do is it will give you a very flat quilt top. So your long armer will love you for this because there won't be any bulges when she's running across that with the long arm. And it will also give you a more perfect center by letting all those seams lay in the opposite directions. Okay, so that was the first method with just scraps. So now I'm going to show you the method of strip piecing your 2.5-inch squares or strips, excuse me, so that you can get your four patch. So we're going to take our dark strip and our light strip. We're going to open them up just like that. Just like that. And then we're going to sew them right sides together. And since we want to press to the dark side, we're going to sew with our dark side on the top. So let me get that done and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're just going to sew our strip together just like this, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's the typical seam allowance used in quilting for those of you beginners. So then once we have our strip sewn like that, we're going to open it up. And again, we're going to kind of press to the dark side. And by sewing with that dark on top, it just kind of automatically wants to lay that way. And so we're just going to press it like that. Going to bring it over here to the cutting mat, and we're going to cut it at 2.5 inches. I'm going to use my seam as, okay, ready? So I'm going to use my 2.5-inch ruler so that I get a perfect 2.5-inch little block. And I'm using my seam on the ruler, the seam guide right there, the measurement on my sewn seam. I'm going to cut this extra little selvage off. You don't want your selvages in your quilt. And then what I'm going to do is turn it around so that I've got my perfect 2.5-inch little piece. Move that one out of the way. Line it up again. I'm lining my seam guide right there to the seam I sewn. And you can just keep going down your strip until you get all of them like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, again, just like we did in the other one, dark to light and light to dark. We're going to do that little nesting or locking mechanism right there. Same thing, right against each other. And here's where your pins are handy. If you want to pin that right there, and since I didn't do it on the other one, I'll do it here. You can just pin that in place. And then we're going to bring it over to the sewing machine again and just sew this together. We did the other one. Again with your 1/4 inch. Take our pin out. Boom, perfect center. Okay, so there's our perfect center. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find my 2 or 3 little stitches over here on the back. Pull those out. Sometimes you can just pull it and give it a little tug and those will come out. But if you have a good stitch, a lot of times you're going to want to pull them out with that seam ripper just to make sure that you get them exactly correct. So these are going opposite directions, so I know I did it correctly. Now I'm going to make these go opposite directions, and there's my little 4 patch on the back. And that is what tells me I locked my seams and did it correctly. And then we're going to iron that flat, and that will lay perfectly flat. So there is a pattern called an Irish chain. So if you make a bunch of 4 patches, it's super easy to do an Irish chain. And if you do it in the strip method like I did with the brown, it goes super quick. So let me show you how to put that together. So you have your whites going here. And so you're going to want to continue with that white pattern going this way. And because we've laid that flat, it's going to stay up on my design wall pretty flat. Then my color ones are going this way. So I'm going to want to continue that. So I'm going to put, how do I do that? Let's go up here. That. And then with the white going this way. And then if these were different colors, it can be really, really scrappy. But you can see your chain starting to develop here in the dark. And you see your chain starting to develop here in the background color. You also see your chains going here. So this can be as scrappy or as designed as you like it. You can see with the brown how it was designed and done on purpose. But you can also see how scrappy it could also look. So with this block, that's where the magic comes. You can make an Irish chain. Have a great day. So we hope you enjoyed this tutorial from Block Play with Quilted Creations. If you're not already a part of the Quilted Creations family, we would love to have you join us. Simply click subscribe below, and if you want to be notified of all the new tutorials, just hit that bell. We hope to see you next time, and as always, there's magic in every stitch. Have a great day.